Hello, hello. Happy full moon in Scorpio. I hope that this message finds you well and that you are starting to come down from all of the hype of the solar eclipse. I feel that really we're just starting to gain insight to the revelations of the eclipse being a giant point of exposure from the collective and the personal shadows. And with this being the full moon in Scorpio, which is, it's the deep, it's the shadows, it's the underworld, it's the transformative, it's our passions and our desires, which feel really, just such a divine design, right? To have the eclipse push forward the places of limitations, the places where we have not held healthy boundaries, where relationships have not been in balance, and to provide this point of really letting go the things that are separating us from reaching our fullest potential or reaching that dream that we have, reaching those desires that we have. And we can use this as a jump point to remind us of really what's important to us and what we want to align ourselves with, and to use this as another opportunity to let a layer go that stands in the way of that authentic alignment, authentic. I'm not finding the right word. Mercury still in retrograde for another, I think it's 8 days, 7 days. So that's the Scorpio energy that's present with us right now. And before we move into this transmission around this particular cycle, I want to ask up front, if you enjoy these videos, please help the algorithms, give it a like, hit subscribe if you want to keep receiving more, and share if you feel that this would be supportive for anyone else. I'm always so grateful for each and every person that watches this, that comments. I do see you. I appreciate you. And with that, let's go ahead and start to tune into the energies, and from this moment forward, calling forth the highest light of truth, of wisdom, asking for messages that help us to see more clearly, understand ourselves more clearly, and to feel what is in alignment with our highest destiny, to feel what is not in alignment with our highest destiny, and to bring forth revelations that will assist us in trusting the process. And with that, so be it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been such an interesting evolutionary curve that we've been through since 2022, really. But this point with the eclipse and how it's beginning to become more available, because the shadow is the unconscious. We don't know that it's there. We don't know that we're behaving in certain ways because we don't know that we're having a certain thought pattern that's connected with a certain emotional reaction. And right now, it's a bit more visible. And maybe you're able to track this in other people. Maybe you're really able to spot this in other people. And to use that as a way to optimize your own self-assessment, your own self-inquiry. Everything originates within inside of the self. So use this time as, people in your environment, or even things in your environment that are triggering something, that are hitting some place in you emotionally, start to track that, see what it's showing you about yourself, and personal truths. You know, some of these, it feels like there are things that are hitting up against our personal truths, and in the personal truth, there may be egoic identity that are also just like little shards that are woven in there that we're not aware of, that because we identify with this personal truth, that then we treat this person a certain way, or we have a certain thought process that we go through when we enter a place or we enter a role. And that's not authentic. That is something that's probably coming forward to see where we might be in self-deception, where we're creating distortions of that truth and maybe misusing some of that energy. Let's feel into what's in the collective right now. How does this relate to us personally? What is where's this orienting us towards? The man covered in boils and the noble flower. This is from a Jade Lion Oracle deck. And our theme for the reading is this man covered in boils. So this was a central figure in the creation story for the current age. In this myth, all of the divine beings are gathered to create the new sun, and each must contribute offerings to the fire. One of the deities, this one, a poor and sick deity, only offered the simplest gifts: reeds, balls of straw, magi pines, and his own blood. He also offered scabs from his wounds in place of the usual offering of copal. He has nothing to give but himself. When the deities asked for volunteers to sacrifice by throwing themselves into the fire to create the sun, 2 deities answered the call. The brothers, this being one of them. At the last minute, the other brother, who was much richer and stronger, did not have the courage to enter the fire. We'll just say Nana, because I can't pronounce Nana Hodson, maybe. Did not have the courage to enter, or Nana Hodson bravely threw himself on the ritual fire to create the sun. And this was the one that didn't have anything else to give but himself. So when this card appears, he reminds you that everything you have to give is sacred, and that even your most humble gifts are powerful. Like him, you have the courage to accomplish great things. All right, well it's like everything's just getting whittled down. That's what I feel is happening, is that we're coming in contact with the most true, authentic, essential self. And there are still these fragments of identity, of ego, that are getting illuminated, are getting expressed. And this is a humiliation, if you will, is a process of humility, so that we can really, it's almost like everything is getting worn down, so that there's no energy or desire to give from any other place than humility from the self, and to give all of that self without limitation, without expectation. This is balance. This brings a state of perfect harmony into the world, and I do so without judgment. So as we observe these parts of ourselves that may be acting out of fear, We have to forgive. We have to practice observation in order to be able to make an assessment. Where are we? Are we out of balance? If we are, where are we out of balance? And if you do so from a place of judgment, it will perpetuate that cycle. You can't break whatever it is that you see by being in judgment. Judgment perpetuates the cycle. So you could even simplify it to whatever it is that you find out of balance, accept that you're out of balance. Accept what you find out about it. That doesn't mean ignore it. That doesn't mean give it a hall pass. It means that you're not going to hold it against yourself, and that you will take corrective action without beating yourself up, without identifying with what that means about who you are as a person, about your characteristics. It just means to witness, be the observer. This is out of balance, and that's it. You don't need, nothing else needs to be said. It's out of balance. But if you find yourself that it is your pattern to judge it, to be hard on yourself or hard on someone else, practice forgiveness. That is the medicine for judgment. This card says, I acknowledge that harboring resentment blocks the flow of love. You may be holding on to some, could even be ancient, it could be old karma that's starting to run off. You could be holding on to some of this. And if not, even ancient karma will persist in this life. It'll show up as if it's something new, because this is where currently most of you is residing. But it's because of this original piece, this original experience, where maybe you, it's not that you just let somebody down. It could have been a very traumatic experience. It could have been, a death is often what has occurred when it's these old, it's a deep loss, a loss of a family member, a loss of a partner, a loss of your own life. And this may be playing through right now. Spirit, can we get a little bit more information here? Pachamama. So it's about what's happening collectively. It's about what some might call the bifurcation or the ascension or the harvest, according to the Law of One. This is about the transformation that's taking place in the world. The Peruvians call it the Pachacuti. It's the end of the age and the beginning of the next age. It is the new world, the new earth. And so as we're separating from that, if there are any parts of us that are still left behind in these old effects of cause and effect of karma, it's beginning to purge out. And if you want to find humility, go into nature. If you're finding a place in you that's really stubborn and unwilling to admit to yourself, unwilling to forgive yourself, unwilling to love yourself, unwilling to accept yourself, then let's reference the cards. All right, can you give us what would be a method to address this? Okay. The Pachamama card is about coming back into this time space and reconnecting with the thing that is real, which is nature, and that this body is real. And when we connect in with nature, we can come in contact with this eternal presence that lives through the natural world, that lives through the elements. And Let's see what the card may have to share. Represents the unconditional love that the earth has for all of her children. And this is the direction that we're moving. So if there's any persistent parts of the ego that are identifying in such a way that it's preventing the authentic self from coming through into its integrity, it's getting stripped away, because this is what prevents us from giving unconditionally. It prevents us from being in contact with the abundance of the universe, of nature. So as we approach Pachamama with reverence, with gratitude, with humility, and we begin to attune back to that. We attune the body, we attune the emotions, the mind, and the spirit with the spirit of the earth, the spirit of the cosmos, the spirit of creation. Our timeless soul can experience life in a biological body thanks to this Pachamama, to this time space. The joy and pain we taste during our brief time on earth are invitations to discover the boundless love of Pachamama. Now is the time to eat right, love right, and be joyous regardless of your circumstances you may find yourself in. Be grateful for your life, your body, and all that nourishes you. Pachamama invites you to relish each breath, embrace your joy and your pain equally, and discover love through both. Let Pachamama know how much you appreciate all her blessings with an act of service, such as planting a tree, helping save an endangered species, or protecting the ocean, or any gesture of unconditional love and gratitude. You know, maybe it's the person that you see on the street who just needs to be acknowledged, needs to be spoken to, needs a hand up, and you do so without expecting something back, without expecting a karmic return or a return from them. And I love Alberto Villoldo's look at this. You still believe that you have been cast out of the Garden of Eden, that you are motherless and homeless. You suppose that you need to work very hard to survive or thrive. It is time to stop suffering. Let go of that old myth and realize you are given the garden to rejoice in and to become its steward. Your melancholy is really a longing to return to the heart of Pachamama. Listen deeply to the mother who is always there for you. Walk in beauty and honor all life. So it's a very personal message about seeking balance and implementing forgiveness, returning to this innate wisdom and memory of ultimate balance, ultimate connectivity. Spending a lot of time with the earth and working with plants right now. If you know me, you know I am a cacaoista. I love cacao, and I love to serve her, and she serves me so well in my community. So working with the plant kingdom, whether that's herbal teas, herbal remedies, compresses, baths, rituals, copal, saging, smudging your house, opening all the windows, smudging your house out, and any other space too, any other areas that you're occupying, including your body, but also being outside. And with this being the time of spring here in Alabama, tending your gardens, tending your land, spending time physically on the earth, appreciating what you see, appreciating the plants in your home, the animals, the songs of the birds. What can create a point of connection instantly with beauty, and letting that experience, start to create more balance in your life, more lightness in your life by seeking that, by seeking these very simple but very deep experiences through connection with nature, through connection with the breath, doing breathing practices and meditation and body rituals, yoga, dance, all of these things that remind us that we create beauty, we create love, we are love. Now, there is this implication that there could be some deception present right now. There could be some energies that will deceive you with the Coyote card. The Coyote is a trickster. What do you get from that? Do you have a Coyote in your life? Are there parts of you that identify with Coyote? It's the one who provides detours for growth and understanding by ensuring that things don't go as planned. Coyote brings the energy of divine deception to set you free from the shackles of that which doesn't serve you. Sometimes it appears that you will get everything you want, only to find that Coyote brings you the opposite of what you hope for. The lessons offered by Coyote may at first appear confusing, but they are most sacred and always for your highest good. So the invitation the Coyote calls to you, this is a time to pay special attention to detours and disappointment, as they are true tests of faith. You have set your intentions and turned them over to the Great Spirit. Yet, you may find yourself lost and confused when it appears you are being led off course, off the path leading to your most cherished dreams and desires. Remember this, Coyote is a sacred trickster and may be leading you into challenges to ensure that you are ready to handle what you've set in motion. Great growth and understanding come to you when the Coyote calls your name. And the medicine is, are you being seduced by what you think you desire? Could it be that the most superficial, sparkly, shiny aspects of your ambition led you in this moment? Perhaps you feel that in order to get what you desire, you have to compromise yourself, control others, or manipulate situations to ensure your goal is met. Coyote howls in the shadows to remind you that this may be a lesson too painful to learn. Beware the shallow waters now. Something or someone might pretend to be deep, but that doesn't make them so, no matter how seductive their superficial traits and how beautiful or sparkly they appear. All that glitters will not turn up gold, no matter how many wishes you make to change that. So who comes to mind? Is there someone in your life that popped up as a curiosity? Could it be them? Is there a part of yourself that tends to be the one to talk you out of things? With this, we have the spider energy, which when I connect with spider, I connect with wisdom. It says weaving your own destiny, creative freedom, inner genius. The spider is the ultimate creator, tapping into its inner genius to weave the perfect web required to entangle its prey. Free from an outside influence of how the web should be, the spider relies solely on its own wants, needs, and desires to achieve its goals. Regardless, the spider asks us about our own inner genius. We all have one, and it's likely that yours is begging to come out. Relinquish the traps of perfectionism, comparison, and admiration. Cut off and cut out any outside distractions that do not feed the authenticity of your inner genius. Whatever it is that is waiting to be unleashed from within is perfect just the way it is because it is yours. Consider the concepts such as good, bad, pretty, and ugly are subjective, are often reductive labels that have nothing to offer something that is raw, powerful, or important. So that it's very curious. It's like what a tangled web we weave. Have we created such a structure in our life that has attracted and captured this coyote energy? That has attracted and captured divine deceivers to help us acknowledge these distorted parts of the personality that act out of fear. Again, it looks like working with plant medicines could be really helpful right now for lifting that last layer that's getting, I hear the word emulsified, or perhaps it's interesting, this card that represents the power of plant medicines to assist knock the coyote off the table. So I think that's what this is this is an emulsifier, if you will. It's called the noble flower. It's the patron of flowers, dancing, singing, feasting, painting, and game playing. And the statue of this goddess is housed in the Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City, is covered with flowers from psychotropic plants. So these are hallucinogenic plants associated with Niños Santos, the little saints, the hallucinogenic mushrooms. And he's said to be in trance. You can see this. So if you know, you know. These plants are powerful allies for lifting these old patterns, these old stories, and putting us in contact with the sacred, eternal truth within us. That once that light of truth comes into the awareness, is contacted, then you can see the distortion of the information. You can see the distortion in the personality that created these certain behavioral patterns that brought this person or this circumstance into your life. So when the noble flower appears, you're reminded to immerse yourself in beauty and the grand mystery of the cosmos. Leave the material world behind and connect with the multidimensional universe within you. Consider leaving the world behind for a bit and connecting with the divine. Of course, this is like the message that just keeps coming over and over again, is we are building a new world. Do you want to build it based on your past limitations, or do you want to build upon the foundations of truth that may not have been realized in this lifetime? We want to build upon truth. So let's see, what deck do we want to pull from here? Alright, Spirit. It's all about the inner union. Myself and soul are one, continuing to identify with eternal truth. And we do this through spending time in solitude, spending time in quiet, spending time in nature. This is from the Mary Magdalene Oracle deck. This may take me a moment to find the guides for this card because they're not in order. As soon as I can find that page, I'll show you the card too. Getting there. The union. So in chapter 5 of Mary's Gospel, the disciples are terrified in the wake of Christ's crucifixion. They fear they will be killed as well if they're caught by the Roman Empire. And she says in here, I've always seen this passage as if it were a scene from a film. I can imagine so vividly the dread they must have felt. I can imagine the comments about the threat to their own lives getting louder until the fear becomes palpable in the air. Then Mary stood up. Her gospel reads, and I can see this so clearly. I can see her standing up among a sea of disciples, all huddled together on the ground, feeling defeated and afraid. Then Mary stood up and greeted them. She tenderly kissed them all and said, Brothers and sisters, do not weep, do not be distressed, nor be in doubt, for his grace will be with you, sheltering you. This moment from Mary's Gospel demonstrates what it means to be in union, and it's evidence of her leadership in the earliest form of Christianity. Mary goes on to say that as a community of brothers and sisters, we should praise his greatness, for he has united us and made us true human beings. The question here, it says, how can I stand up like Mary to be a presence of love in this moment? So whatever the challenging situation may be, it may require you to face the fear and to lead from that place of radical trust, radical surrender, and then to be still and know I am God. The most important voice we could ever hear doesn't have a voice at all. The silence within the heart isn't devoid of sound or images. The silence within us is often deafening with the volume of its truth. The silence is often so confronting because it asks us to face what we already know. Silence is mentioned in 2 significant points in Mary's Gospel. It says, after Mary had said these things, she was silent, since it was up to this point that the Savior had spoken to her. This verse implies that everything Mary shares in her gospel was word for word what she heard from within her. Silence is only a virtue when we're truthful about sharing word for word what we hear in our heart. It's never virtuous to hold back or silence the truth that lives inside us, no matter how outside world might perceive it. It's not our work to judge a truth within us so critically that we never even express it. This ends up being one of the main regrets of the dying, that we didn't say out loud what we repeated inside of ourselves and silently knowing of the heart. Mary says, from this hour on, for the time of the due season of the eon, I will receive rest in silence. This is the silence that comes when all of the 7 powers have lost. This is the silence that is a triumph, a tiny, unceremonious and unseen victory, and yet no less monumental. Silence is when we have overcome all those egoic powers and would have us believe we are anything other than love. Silence is being submerged in love. Silence is when all we hear is the steady stream of what the heart has to say. And joy is the courage to simply express it, word for word, saying only what the heart already knows. When the ego is silent, what do you hear your heart share? This is the path back home. There was a card that was left here. It's the beloved. It was, when I picked up the deck, for whatever reason, one card on the bottom didn't pick up, and so I felt that this is a little bonus. Beloved, love never ends. How can I love myself unconditionally in this moment? Everything is creating a pathway back home to love inside of ourselves, to the beloved, to the home within inside of ourselves, to the place that has felt parched, to the place that has felt exhausted, from the places that have felt exhausted and parched, to the place that feels nourishing and safe and joyous and possible. The reading, to me, sends this message of creating heaven on earth right now by setting yourself free from your judgments, applying the balm of forgiveness to yourself, to others, and to know that the gift of yourself is enough. To be mindful of the places that you have set yourself up for deception, where you may have called a sacred coyote in to show you where you have deceived yourself, and to take ownership of that accountability of being a masterful creative force in this universe, to listen to the plants and to be in relationship with these plants, to receive their medicine of memory, and allowing that to tune us to the memory of the inner union from the place of silence, seeking all of your answers from the heart, creating the silent space to gain access to the wisdom that you may have been searching for tirelessly outside of yourself, and trusting that and having the bravery, the courage, the radical trust to vocalize that, to speak that, to express that without filtering it, without tainting it, without changing it, word for word. All to keep you focused on the greater picture, the bigger picture. The only reason for living is to return back to love. We all have individual gifts, and those individual gifts will express, and you will own them, and you will have confidence in them the more that you trust and allow the parts of you that you don't want to be seen, to be heard. You allow that authentic self behind all of the personas to have a voice, to use the body as an instrument. And while we have all these gifts and we want to apply them to our purpose in this life, we all have a shared purpose to awaken to the reality in every moment that we are spiritual beings and that we are interconnected, that we are love, that love is something that is created through an awakened state. And this happens when we cultivate balance, reciprocity. And the more that we unify with that, the experience of heaven on earth is so. We are beginning to resonate and bring that vibration in. Thank you for receiving this message. Thank you for showing up in all the ways that you do. Thank you for attenuating yourself to love, to truth, to honor, hope, faith. May you all receive the blessings of this full moon with ease and grace. And if you feel that this message served you and you haven't already, hit that like or subscribe button. Please do so now. And until we meet again, keep it pure, stay simple. Pura vida.